Hello and welcome to the Wedding Dish Podcast. Grab your fork and knife and take a seat at our table as we dish on all things weddings. You'll hear stories and tips, not trips, from real couples and wedding pros about love, life, and entrepreneurship. I'm Sarah Alapin, the host of The Wedding Dish and CEO of Photos from the Hardy and District Bliss. Thank you so much for tuning into The Wedding Dish today. I am very excited to dish with today's guest. Today's expert is on a mission to change marriage and relationship dynamics through inspiration and education. The author of Epic Love Habit. Chaya, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor, such a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to dig into this episode because we're covering some topics that are really important in the wedding planning process and also in your marriage beyond the wedding planning process as well.
Yes, that's the most important part. Both of it, how you enter it and how you come out.
Yes, perfect. All right. Well, how can you keep your focus throughout the wedding planning process on your needs as a couple rather than like the needs of the family? And this is, I think, specifically challenging for couples who really value their family's opinions and experiences. And also, sometimes their families are paying for part or all of the wedding.
And, it's such a tricky thing, and it comes into play in so many different areas of life. So many times we feel pressured to do something to please someone else. Maybe they're paying for something, maybe because they're a relative, maybe because, they're old and they're going to die soon. I don't know, old grandma, don't make grandma, whatever it is. There's this like external pressure that we feel to please other people. But then the issue with that is if we don't hear our own voice, if we don't hear our own needs, and if we don't honor ourselves through the journey of how to maneuver the most important people in our lives, we end up resentful, unhappy, passive aggressive, ending relationships randomly and abruptly, even with relatives. So we always want to go from the end backwards. Like, what am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to like have happen at the end of this slash in 5 years after the wedding? Who do I still want in my life? What's the most important to me? And if grandma, Gertie isn't the most important, then maybe don't make all of the colors purple for her. And maybe if she's the most important person in your life and seeing your pictures of purple will make you remind you of her when she's in heaven, then everything should be purple, even if you don't like it. But if you have to go a little bit further in your mind of what's going to bring you joy versus what's going to bring you resentment in a year or 2 or 3 years from now, so that you know which decisions you're making, not only for other people, but most importantly for yourself to live joyously and not in anger and resentment with your now new spouse.
Yeah, and I think that that is something we don't always realize we are bringing into our relationship too. And the resentment can really like last in wedding planning. Like you carry that with you because this is a hugely important day. And it's something that you just like you're looking at photos of it. You're reliving it every, time you talk about it, and it can keep bringing up those feelings.
Yeah. And you really want those feelings to be peaceful, happy, profitable in like your marriage, meaning like it adds to your marriage. You don't want to like get back on wedding night and you're supposed to be like making love and blissful and be like, "Can you imagine Aunt Jody did that?" Like you don't want to ruin your marriage and your moments because you didn't focus in advance on the bigger picture, on what matters, and on what's going to matter in a year or 2 or 5 from now.
Yeah, I am so with you. I could not agree more. Um, so speaking of, how can couples, as you put it, plan with peace throughout this process?
Yeah, I think it's like a one important thing is to prioritize peace. A lot of times people are just not prioritizing the right thing. They're like, well, I want my friends to be happy. I want my friends to have a good time. I want people to be like, this was the best wedding ever. I want the best food. Like, And all those things are so fleeting. Like half of those friends, if not more, you're not going to talk to after the wedding that frequently. Half of those friends, you might not even be friends with in 5 years. Half of those friends, who knows? But once you get married, once you have kids, once you move to wherever you move to, like if you're focusing on pleasing your friends and making it a great wedding for them and a great party for them, and other people are going to be so proud of your hot dress or your fancy food or whatever the venue, then you're missing the point of like, how do I create the most amount of pleasure and benefit and blessings at the ceremony so that people can enjoy themselves, but more significantly, I can enjoy myself. And it's just this fine balance of honoring yourself and not getting lost in a production and finding your purpose. Like this is to honor me and my husband. This is for me to like look back and remember I was so blessed to marry someone so awesome. This is for me not to be stressed, but to like be like floating high all day long because I remembered peace over details, whatever. And when you like get yourself prepped in advance with your priorities, with your purpose, then something's going to come up. The caterer dropped the cake. Holy crap, right? And then you're like, wait, peace over details, whatever your mantra is. And you're like, okay, am I going to like be upset and remember my wedding day as about the one person who screwed up? Or am I going to remember that I prioritize peace the same way that I want to take it into my marriage?
Love that. It feels like it just immediately takes so much pressure off of the actual day and off of the planning experience and just truly does give you peace.
And that could be the mantra, peace over pressure.
Yeah,
Like,
I love
screw
that.
it. Like they screwed up my
I,
hair, screw it, like
yeah.
Aunt Jody's drunk again, screw it, like whatever, peace over pressure, man. No one's gonna remember this but me as much, so I'm gonna prioritize my peace. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, how can couples manage difficult conversations about wedding planning? Because, like, yes, like our goal is peace over pressure, but difficult conversations are going to happen. So, how do you keep that peace during those difficult conversations?
I think it's important to remember two sentences before marriage and after marriage. So, as a relationship expert who helps people develop epic love habits, which keep them learning how to unconditionally love themselves and others, the form of communication needs to come. I think these two sentences really help. One is, I need space, and the other is, I need attention. So many times you first get married and like you're like you're living on top of each other if you didn't already live together, and it's like, okay, sometimes you need attention and sometimes you need space, and those two terms are very understood by the other party. Space means, okay, like let her be or let him be or and attention means let me sit next to them without my phone and ask them how they're feeling, what's going on. um, but also when you're having those hard conversations, I mean, it's really important to understand. Um, and obviously, this hopefully comes before the engagement, before who you choose to marry. But a lot of times, the difficult conversations can be around like different faith practices or different cultural practices. And so, you really want to get clear with yourself. What's my faith? What's my heritage? What's my culture? What's my wedding tradition? Most cultures have wedding traditions. And what do I value? And how much do I value that? And that's a really big thing to get honest with yourself before you talk to your fiance about it, um, because it can make or break your emotional and spiritual and connective process during the whole day. If you're again trying to please someone else versus yourself or something that means a lot to you. So it really kind of always goes back to yourself, and then having the tools like I need space, I need attention, when to like not have things get out of control, as well as just also remembering peace is important. But that you're not like trapped. You're not trapped to have the conversation. You're not trapped to figure out the details. It's not the most time sensitive thing in the world, more important than destroying yourself or the relationship. So, those are some good starter points.
Yeah, those are great. Do you often find in your relationship coaching that people have trouble using those statements, or does that release them more into like a confident way of communicating with their significant other? It seems like it would make it a lot easier to communicate because you have the toolkit. But do you find in when you're working with clients that they are afraid to admit that they need space or attention in any circumstances?
I mean, fear is a part of life, and anytime you want to heal or do something great or do something, period, you have a lot of fear. I want to go work out, but I'm afraid I'm gonna not have enough time for dinner or I'm gonna get too sweaty. Like fear is like the stupidest, most common part of our brain. So you just have to get used to it.
So
So are
true.
people, right? Like it's like, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to make more money. Why? I'm afraid to lose money. Why? I don't know. I'm just afraid. Like people are just like, we're just part of like life, which is why we have to work so frequently and commonly and consistently on our faith. Like, I'm okay. God's got me. I could do this. So the tools help, but you just have to remember, you don't want to lash out by accident. So if we don't get space, we will lash out by accident. We will feel resentful by accident. We'll start hating our spouse. That's a strong term, but by accident, we'll be like, oh my God, they're so annoying. When it's not that they're so annoying, is that you didn't get any time for yourself to manage other people, even if they were the nicest person in the world. If you're depleted because you haven't given yourself enough time, energy, and attention, like anyone's going to bother you. So these tools help them simply know I need me first, because if I don't take care of myself, I really can't handle anyone else. And it's not an indication of who they are, but just the natural process of humans. We need to ebb and flow, gain energy, reboot. Um, yeah. So fear, do they feel it? Yeah, but who cares? You got to do shit anyway.
Like power through it.
Yeah, like get used to fear, get used to pain, and don't be afraid of it, because that would make you run away from like really important conversations that can then change so much of the good parts of the marriage.
Yeah, that's a really important statement that fear can make you run away from important conversations. And it truly can, whether that be you're afraid to talk to your, family, your parents, or your significant other's parents and say, we don't want this or we want like it. Yeah, fear can make you run away from all of that.
And you have to know that good people will care about your happiness and selfish people won't. But if they're a selfish person who doesn't care about your happiness, whether you have the conversation nicely or not, you're not going to be, really a part of the equation, because it's very self-focused on that individual. So again, it's more important to have those conversations so that you can see like, oh, you know what? This person may or may not give me what I want, but I can see by the way that they spoke to me that they're either totally not listening to anything that I want, and therefore nothing's going to change. I don't even want to try to work with them. I don't even want to try to be there for them, or like, work it out. Or, this person really cares about my needs and my feelings. And so again, I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but at least I feel like we can work together through this. So having the hard conversation is actually a gift to see how much space you truly have in the relationship to move forward to better ground.
Well said. Well said. Well, what final advice do you have for couples who are, in the wedding planning process right now, but looking forward beyond the wedding celebration, for a successful marriage? And I know that's a big, big question. So if you just want to give us like one little tip or, three or something, because I'm sure you could go on for days about this.
You're going to need to ask the question again, because my husband was calling on my cell phone and I didn't answer, but it totally distracted me. So
Oh
can you repeat it?
no. I love the honesty there. We are real humans. I said, what final advice do you have for couples who are in the wedding planning process, but we're looking beyond for like the successful marriage after the wedding celebration?
Yeah, I mean, a successful marriage starts with yourself. If you don't know who you are, it's very hard to communicate your needs to somebody else. A lot of times, women and men have not taken the time to get to know themselves, like as an individual, as a spiritual being, as what matters to them, what they value. And so if you don't take that time to get to know yourself, even if you're planning a wedding, even if you're whatever, wherever you're at, it's going to be very hard to know what your needs are to then communicate them effectively. And also to understand what bothers you truly and then how to communicate that effectively. We can only communicate what we know. We can't talk about things we haven't processed and come to the realization about. So, to have a happy marriage means you have to understand that the only person obligated to protect you is you. Your husband or your wife, they're not obligated to protect you. They're not obligated to take care of you. They're not obligated to make you happy. If they take care of you, awesome, healthy relationship. If they make you happy, bonus of the day. But their whole job is not like, how do I make her happy? How do I make him happy? That's like a very unhealthy dynamic where you're attached to, in kind of like a codependent behavior. If they're okay, I'm okay. If they're okay, I'm okay. But what that does is it leaves both parties kind of always fighting for air and not having enough space to enjoy life because they're always trying to manage the other person's emotions and reactions and if they're okay or not. So really and truly, what makes a happy marriage is when you learn how to love yourself, how to honor your needs, how to learn how to make yourself happy. And then you're freaking happy. You have so much more energy to put into your marriage. And then he comes home and he does something great. And you're like, wow, honey, thank you. But if you're miserable because you don't know how to love yourself and take care of yourself, he can come home with flowers and be like, thanks. Needed that like 2 days ago. you know, like, like you're not even happy enough to appreciate your blessings. So first and foremost, love yourself, whether you're single, engaged, or married. If learn my epic love habit, learn from Louise Hay, get to know how to up your levels of energy and love and unconditional love so that you practicing that so often with yourself, you know how to practice it with your spouse. Because if you always make a mistake and hate yourself, well, if he makes a mistake, you're going to hate him too, or be frustrated or whatever your normal reaction is. So we have to understand that the world isn't how the world is, it's how we see it based on how we treat ourselves. And when we learn how to love ourselves more compassionately and more unconditionally, we naturally share that with the people around us, including our partner. And it helps the marriage sustain a lot more healthfully.
Love that. Love that so much. Well, Haya, thank you so much for joining me on the wedding dish today. Where can our listeners find you online?
I would say to start with marriedin2025.com. Because if you go there, you can put in your information and then I will call you right away because that is how I work. And every single person that comes into our system, we value and appreciate. It's not a name and a number or a lead, it's a soul. I really see everyone who comes into our system as a soul, and we all deserve healing and love and tools to learn how to love and heal. So go to marriedin2025.com. I'll say that slower. Marriedin2025.com, and you'll get some cool information and you can come into my system and then I'll call you and we can chat and we can book a call. And then, anything you need, I'm totally here for you. We all need to learn how to love epically. And if you don't have the relationship skills and tools, it doesn't matter how long you've been dating, short or long, you don't have exactly what you need to keep it sustainable and growing. So definitely encourage all the listeners to get those relationship skills. I would love to hear from you. And of course, thank you, Sarah, for being such an epic host.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It was great to have you as an epic guest. And we will, of course, link out to you on our show notes, on our and in our episode description. So if you all didn't catch that, or if you go away and you need to come back and find it later, it'll be there. Don't worry. And while you're finding Haya online, you can find us at theweddingdishpodcast.com, where you can get show notes, and all kinds of great information from Haya and all the good stuff. Don't forget to tune in next week. We have another amazing guest. We're talking about style with Gia, and I'm so excited about talking about like how you can actually feel your best and look your best for, and be your most confident version of yourself, because who doesn't love that? You've got the emotional tools now, so from Haya. Thank you so much. This was such a fun episode. I'm so glad that you joined us on the wedding dish today, Haya.
My pleasure. It was amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah, and to all of y'all listening. I hope you guys have an amazing day.
You. Until next time, cheers, everybody.